So let's all start sitting. You can sit on blankets or blocks. Also feel free to just sit on your mat. You can cross your legs at the center shins. Press your hands down to raise the sides up. Roll the shoulders back and open the chest. And with your head and neck straight, join your hands together at the center of your heart. Maintain the lift in the sides and lift in the chest as you quietly close the eyes. Use the exhalations to settle yourself. And the inhalation to relift the sides, relift the chest as you spread and open your heart. Put the head and neck straight, soften and relax the muscles on your face. Let your attention and your awareness go in. We'll start by chanting Om together 3 times to open class. Inhale. With the eyes closed, the chest open, gently bow your head towards your heart. And release your hands onto your lap. As you inhale, relift your head and your chest. Open your eyes. And then we can stretch the legs forward. And then take your blankets or your blocks. If you were sitting on anything, you can take that to the side. And we'll start in Tadasana. So you can stand in the middle of your mat with your feet and your legs together. And with the feet together, legs together, lift and spread your toes. Press down into your heels as you raise the sides up. Spread and extend your fingers by your sides. And with an inhalation now, press your heels down and raise your arms up for Urdhva Hastasana. So with the palms facing one another, inner arms facing one another, lift your fingers to the ceiling to extend the wrist. And as you lift your fingers even higher, straighten the elbows. So lift the fingers and the arms up to lift the sides. And then with that full stretch in the arms and lift in the sides, press down into the heels. And then exhale, take your arms down, roll the shoulders back, recover with an open chest. So again, take your thighs back, press the heels and lift the top chest. And then again, inhale, press down into the heels and lift the arms up for Urdhva Hastasana. That's it, lift the arms, extend the sides. And now keep that stretch in the arms as you bend your legs. So as the arms lift to the ceiling, bend in the ankles, bend in the knees, take your thighs back so you can bend in your hips and take the thighs down. That's it. And then inhale, press your heels, lift the arms up again. Exhale, take the arms down by your sides. And then one more time like that, press the heels down. Inhale, swing the arms up, Urdhva Hasta. Lift the arms, extend the sides, and keep that full stretch there as you bend your legs again. That's it. Bend the legs down as you lift the arms and the sides up. Inhale, press the heels, lift the arms up again. Exhale, take your arms by your sides. Roll the shoulders back to open the chest. We'll take Utthita Trikonasana, extended triangle pose. So when you're ready, inhale, step or jump your feet apart. Separate your legs wide. And then find again the Tadasana leg action. So as you press your heels down, inhale, raise the sides up and extend out through the fingertips. Turn your left toes in slightly. Revolve the whole right leg out. And as you turn your right leg, press down into the heels and extend out through the fingers there. And then with an exhalation, bend to the side. Take your right hand to your shin. The left hand can come to your hip. Lift and spread the toes again. And as you lift the toes, lift the knees and the thighs. With that firmness there, press your heels down to lift the thighs to the hips. And then inhale, stretch the sides and the chest towards your hip. Roll the top shoulder back to open up the left side chest. From there, stretch the left arm up. Stay firm in the legs. Lift the toes, press the heels, and stretch the arms to open across your chest. That's it. And press your left heel, stretch the arm, and pull yourself up. Turn your toes forward. Take your hands to your hips. Roll the shoulders back and recover with an open chest. Take some deeper breaths here. Deeper inhalation, and then longer exhalation. Press your heels, stretch the arms, turn your right toes in slightly, and revolve the left leg out. That's it. And as you turn, with the turn in the leg, press down into the heels, re-stretch the arms, and then exhale, bend to the side. Take your left hand to your shin, right hand to your hip. Lift and spread your toes to firm the knees and the thighs. Press your heels down as you lift the thighs to the hips. And then with that firmness in the legs, take a deep inhalation and stretch the sides. So can you find that length from the hips all the way to the armpits? Roll the right shoulder back and stretch the right arm up. Press your heels, lift the thighs to the hips and stretch the arms to spread and open your chest. And to come out of the pose, press your right foot, stretch the arm, come all the way up. Turn your toes forward, step or jump the feet together. Roll your shoulders back and recover with an open chest. So like Kevin said earlier, we've all probably done triangle pose anywhere between 10 to 1,000 times just on one side. So we know some things about triangle pose, but even still, we'll go again and work to see where we're going. So we know, for example, that we turn the front leg out. And so we'll see that not only are we turning the leg like we think we are, but we're turning the leg to where it's supposed to go, so that the center thigh, center knee, and center ankle and shin are in the line. So we'll look and see where we're going. So again, raise your hands to the center chest, go wide apart, step or jump. Separate the legs wide. Press your heels, stretch the arms there, turn your left toes in. Revolve the right leg out. So as you press the heels and lift the chest, now look at your right leg. And turn the right leg and keep looking so you see that not only do we think we are turning the right leg, but we are. And not only do we think we're turning the right leg to the right place, but we're seeing that the center thigh, center knee, center shin, and ankle are in line. And so once we see not only where we're going, but that we arrive at that destination, from there, exhale, bend to the side. Right hand to your shin, left hand to your hip. And since we're already looking at that front leg, we might as well keep watching and see where we're going. So look at your right leg, lift your toes, tighten the knees and the thighs. Can you see the lift of the knees and the thighs coming up to the hips? From there, press down into the heels. Roll the top shoulder back and stretch the top arm up. Press the heels, stretch the arms to open across your chest. That's it. And then come on up. Press your left heel, stretch the arms, come up. Turn your toes forward. Take your hands to your hips. Roll the shoulders back and recover with an open chest again there. Re-stretch the arms. The second side, turn your right toes in and the left leg out. Look at the left leg. Turn the left leg from inside to out. See that the center thigh, knee, shin, and ankle are in the line. So see where you're going. See that you get there. And then exhale, bend to the side. Once you're there, bend to the side. With the left hand on the shin, take your right hand to your hip. Lift and spread your toes to firm the knees and the thighs. You can again keep looking See that when you lift the toes, it connects to the whole leg lifting. Press down into the heels as you roll your right shoulder back. And there, stretch the right arm up. Press the heels, stretch the arms to open across your chest. That's it. Then press your right foot, stretch the arm, come on up. Turn your toes forward. Step or jump the feet together. And recover with an open chest. Take some deeper breaths here. Deeper inhalation and deeper exhalation. Roll the shoulders back to open the chest there. And we'll take Virabhadrasana 2 now. So inhale, go wide apart. Separate your legs a little wider than we did for triangle pose. Turn the left toes in slightly. Turn the right leg out. And we've been doing this, so we might as well look at your right leg, turn the right leg. So you see again where we're going, center leg in a line. And then with that rotation, press the heels, lift the chest. And then keeping the lift in the sides of the chest, exhale and bend your right leg. Bend the ankle, bend the knee, bend in the hip to take the thigh down. Press your heels, extend out through the fingertips. That's it. Press your left heel, stretch the arm, come on up. Turn your toes forward, take your hands to your hips. Roll the shoulders back and recover with an open chest. Take deeper breaths here, deeper inhalation, deeper exhalation. Re-stretch the arms. Turn your right toes in, left leg out. Turn the left leg, see where you're going, see that the center leg's in the line. Press your heels and lift the chest. And then keep that as you bend your left leg. Bend in the ankle, bend in the knee, releasing the hip so the thigh goes down. That's it. Exhale, sit a little lower, inhale and lift the top chest. And then press your right foot, stretch the arm, come on up. Turn your toes forward, step or jump the feet together. Roll your shoulders back and recover with an open chest. And then we'll take Warrior 2 again. When you're ready, inhale, go wide apart. Separate the legs wide like you did the last side. Turn your left toes in. Revolve the right leg out. That's it. As you turn the right leg from inside to out, stretch the arms to open your chest. And with that organized, exhale, bend your right leg. That's it. Bend the right leg to a right angle there. Inhale, lift the sides. Exhale, sit a little lower. Press your left foot, stretch the arm, come on up. Turn your toes forward, take your hands to your hips. Roll the shoulders back, open your chest. Deeper inhalation, deeper exhalation. Second side, stretch the arms wide again. Turn your right toes in and left leg out. That's it. As you turn your left leg, re-stretch the arms. Exhale and bend. Bend the left leg there to a right angle. So bend ankle, knee, hip to take the thigh down. And then press your right foot, stretch the arm, come on up. Turn your toes forward. Step or jump the feet together. Recover with an open chest there and an open smile.
So as you recover with an open chest and an open smile, okay, check your Tadasana. Deidra was talking about looking where you're going and then seeing if you arrive there, right? So before we go into another pose, Tadasana is a pose. So have you arrived at Tadasana, okay? Or are you just kind of like waiting for something else to happen? Tadasana is in every pose. So Deidra's been talking about the pressing of the heels, the lifting of the toes, okay, to kind of activate your legs. So you don't have to wait for some other pose or something else to happen to find those actions. So as you're here in Tadasana, okay, are you pressing your heels? If you'd like to lift your toes to kind of charge the legs, okay, use that. Find it here. The idea is when you're practicing these shapes, these asanas, that you work from the simpler, the more basic asanas to the more complicated ones, because it's easier to find the things here. Don't wait till you're doing a lot of things to try and recreate it. Create it here in your Tadasana. Then you have to let it go a little bit. okay, as you bring your fingertips in front of you, okay, and go wide. Again, okay. Utthita Parshvanottanasana, extended side angle pose. So turn the left toes in. Turn the right foot and leg out from the thigh. Okay, so the thigh rotates from inside out. Okay. Bend your right leg into a square so you're in Virabhadrasana 2. Look at your leg. And now that more things are happening, the knee is bending, is that shin, that knee, that thigh still in one line. Okay? And you have to look where you're going and make sure you get there as that one hand goes down and your top hand goes on your hip. Now, if you're looking and your leg hasn't gotten to where it needs to go, you have to make the adjustment. You have to extend more through your inner groin to your inner knee. You have to pull back outer knee to outer hip. Right? But you have to make sure the leg is going where you intend it to go before you take your hand off your hip. Extend it over yourself so you're creating one straight line from the outer edge of that back foot through the fingertips. And then when you start to think about all this stuff, did this not end up where you thought it was going anymore? Recheck the base of your pose and then pull yourself up to your top arm. Turn your feet face forward. You can rest with your hands on your hips. Open chest, open smile. Arms out. Right foot in, left foot and leg turns out. So now you've done Utthita Parshvanottanasana to one side today, right now. Use that information, that experience from that side you just did to inform this second side. Okay? So start to bend your left leg into a square. And once again, is your leg going where you intend it to go? Once you've got that handled, you can start to build on top of it. One hand down, one hand on your hip. Bring awareness back to your base. Are your heels pressing down? Are your shins drawing up? Are your thighs rotating? Both front thighs rotating away from one another. Check all those things before you add on top. Right? Press down into the fingertips on your bottom hand. Right? Pull the arm bone up and externally rotate that bicep. Turn your trunk against the turning of that bicep. Then top arm comes up and over. Reach. Reach. Press in both feet, pull yourself up. Turn your feet face forward. Jump or step your arms and legs back in. Be in your Tadasana. Open chest, lifted chest, broad smile. One more time each side, fingertips in front. Jump or step, go wide. Left foot in, right foot and leg out. Before you do more things, press your heels, lift your toes, and see how that kind of sends a charge up the front of the leg. You can feel that charge, you can feel that line. So what the pose asks us to do is don't lose that line, even though the line starts to bend. So bend your leg into a square, okay? And there's still a line going from the middle of your foot, up your shin, over your knee, up your thigh. Okay? Don't lose that line. One straight line here, okay? Bent line, but straight, two lines, as you go over into Utthita Parshvanottanasana. So come up. Feet forward. Second time, second side. Right foot in, left foot and leg out. Press down through the feet, draw up through the front of the legs. Don't let the drawing up stop here. Use that drawing up through the legs to lift the sides of the trunk. Broaden the chest from the center to the side. So your chest doesn't stop here. Your chest stops at your fingertips. Stops at the sides of the room. From the pressing down at the outer edge of the back foot, bend your left leg into a square. You can see if it's still tracking over the middle of that foot. One hand down, and then his other hand to the hip or other arm up and over. Breathe. Now, if you've extended your trunk over this bent leg, can you get more extension through your trunk to that side by anchoring down to the back foot, to the outer edge of the back foot, outer heel, outer ball mound? It's from that pressing down that you reach not just your arm, you reach the size of your trunk. Press into both feet, pull yourself up. Turn your feet to face forward. Jumper step your arms and legs back in. Prasarita Padottanasana is wide-legged forward bent. So you can do this with a pair of bricks, okay? Or you can do this coming to the floor. So get the items you need. Okay? Be in Tadasana, okay? Hands in your hips, okay? Feet wide. Okay? Roll the shoulders back. Press down through the feet, especially the heels. You can lift the toes, okay? That kind of charges the ball mounds. And once again, you can feel that line, that energy charging up through the shins, through the kneecaps, through the thighs. Don't let it stop here. Lift your trunk up off your pelvis. Start to hinge at your hips, come forward. When you get about halfway, hands come down, okay, underneath the shoulders. Before more things happen, okay, look at your legs. Look at your feet, look at your legs. Okay? Did your feet and legs end up where you wanted them to go? If they didn't end up where you wanted them to go, where the pose is asking you to go, don't do more things. Make the adjustments you need. Okay? So maybe one toe started to turn in, maybe one heel started to turn out. Organize your pose from the base. Activate the undersides of the feet. Lift the inner arches of the feet. Draw up through the inner legs. Draw up through the shin, the kneecap, and the thighs. As you draw up through your thighs, take the root of your thighs back and stretch your trunk forward. Then don't let your legs get lazy. Keep working in your legs. Legs have to work more as your trunk lowers down. Any amount. Your mileage may vary. It's not important to necessarily get to the floor. Okay? It's important to make sure that you're still doing the actions you established before you start to go down, okay, that give you the best chance to get where you're trying to go. Take a few breaths here. Once your head ended up, wherever it ended up, see what your pose needs. Check through your pose, see what it needs, and then you have to give the pose what it needs. Press firmly into your heels and ball mounds. Inhale, lift your head and lift your chest. Straighten your arms. If you have something underneath your hands, you may have to raise the height of that support. Before you pop up, heel toe your feet in, narrow your base. Narrow your base until your feet are hip width, at least, if not closer. Then press your feet firmly into the floor as you bring your hands to your hips. Inhale and stand up. Once you stood up, you can come down on your mat. You can ready for set to bandha, okay? Bridge pose. So you can do this with a brick. You can do this with multiple bricks. You can do it with bolsters. I don't have bolsters to demonstrate with at the moment. Or you're set to bandha. I lay down, okay, with my knees bent. Okay. I lift the tailbone up and I take my brick, or if it's two bricks, and get it underneath the tailbone here. Once it's there, arms go out to the sides, palms up. When it's time to come down, the brick comes out, buttocks come down. You extend the legs one at a time for Shavasana. So you're here, okay? Organize the brick underneath you. And with your shins perpendicular to the floor, okay, keeping your head, your neck, your shoulders down, press the heels, and lift the tailbone, get the brick underneath you. Keeping the knees bent, you can keep the knees bent. If you're somebody who's experimenting with straightening the legs, you can think about what Deidra was saying earlier in terms of there being a line through the front of the leg. So your shin, your knee, your thigh in one line. It's the same idea if your legs are bent, but just like in your side angle, and you've got that right angle through your knee, and there might be breaking your awareness between that straight line going from the top of your foot to your shin, that straight line on your thigh. But if your shoulders are down, okay, and your tailbone supported on the brick, shoulder blades come onto the back a little bit to give a little bit of lift and some more openness in the chest. Your hands are, and your arms are turning down, biceps are turning towards one another. Turn the biceps away from one another, so then you can get a little bit more space through your chest. And then bend your knees, bring your feet to the floor. And once your feet are on the floor, press your feet firmly so you can lift the tailbone up off the brick, or whatever support you're using. And once that brick is out of the way, lower your buttocks so that the buttocks is coming more towards your heels than towards the back of your head. And once your buttocks is on the ground, stretch your legs out one at a time. With your legs stretched out one at a time, you can take the feet a little bit wider, the legs a little bit wider. Let the feet and legs fall out to the side. Organize your hands and your arms by taking your hands and your arms a little bit away from your trunk, palms face up. And let the arms and legs relax. Let the feet and the hands relax. Fingers curl gently. Let everything go. Let your front body fall into your back body. Let your back body sink into the earth. Relax your throat, jaw. Tongue is not pressing against the teeth. Teeth are gently touching. Lips gently touching one another. Eyelids gently touching. Eyes fall away from the eyelids. Brain recedes away from the forehead towards the back of the skull. Take one more deep inhalation and a slow, smooth, steady exhalation. Bend your knees, bring your feet to the floor. Stretch your right arm up past your right ear, and you can use that arm as a pillow as you roll onto your right side and stay on your right for a moment. And use your hands and push yourself up to a seated position that's comfortable. Close your eyes. And bring your hands together in front of your heart. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale again, and surrender your head to your heart. Now lift your head. Gazing towards your hands, slowly open your eyes. And lift your gaze upward. Thank you. So we have a moment here before we start the interview. And this is an interview that's going to be with Senior Iyengar teacher Jaki Nett. Deidre's here as well. Deidre, is there anything you want to say before we start the tape? And you guys have a moment to adjust yourselves or, get popcorn or something, because this interview is a recorded interview with Jaki that's almost 40 minutes long. So definitely be comfortable. So whatever that means to you. Deidre, anything to add?
Just thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. And we will be playing this interview. It's actually edited down a little bit. So we'll be working with the Institute to get the full version of this interview posted online so that people who are interested can watch it. But Jaki is, as I said before, a very amazing and interesting woman, and she's just great. So I think for Deidre and I, in terms of just thinking about this event, I've been practicing Iyengar yoga for a while, and I've not met a lot of Black teachers. And to just hear from somebody who's been practicing for so long, who also, has lived the experience of being a Black person in America, is just very inspiring. So, and I feel like as great as it's been to hear from so many wonderful teachers who are not Black, it's great to hear from one who is. So, a moment, here we go. This is a interview with Jaki Nett, Senior Iyengar teacher, first and only Black Senior Iyengar teacher.
First, to introduce Jaki, I'd like to just ask you about your experience starting out as in yoga, and then how you got to Iyengar Yoga, and if you felt supported along the way, and what was available to you at that time.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Deidra. I started yoga in 1975, was my first class that I took yoga in Los Angeles. And my first certification was with Indra Devi. And during the time that I was taking class, in fact, in 1975, my first teacher was a Black teacher in Southern California, in Santa Monica, and it never crossed my mind when I walked in. It was a Black teacher. It was just that was the case. She was a Black teacher, and she was a devotee of Indra Devi. And after I was there taking her class, she introduced Light on Yoga, because Mr. Iyengar was on television, and she came in and she introduced Light on Yoga, the book Light on Yoga. And so I immediately got the book. And she also, after about a year of studying, she said that Indra Devi was doing a teacher's training in Tecate, Mexico. And so I went and studied with Indra Devi and got my first certification there. And then a couple of years later, I went to Pennsylvania and studied with Amrit Desai, and I got my Kripalu Yoga certification. And I got married and moved to San Francisco. And I had heard of Judith Lassiter, who was teaching in San Francisco. And so I decided I was going to go and take teacher's training and get certified in the Iyengar tradition in San Francisco. And so I took my first class, actually, it was in June of 1982. I have all my dates down here. June of 1982, and then my first class was with Felicity Green at that time. And so in September, this was June, in September, I started the teacher's training program. I talked them into saying, oh, I'm certified, I'm so great and wonderful. And I talked them into letting me join the teacher's training program. And it was the school was very small then. And so I took the teacher's training program, and within the second semester, asana 2, it became very obvious that I needed to really take the classes. They said, you need to take Iyengar classes, because it was, what I found was that Iyengar Yoga just really put reality in your face, or I say in my face, because I thought I was so great and wonderful, and I came walking in there and it slapped reality right in my face.
It takes something to continue to do all this studying, whether as a student or as a teacher. So I want to ask you, why did you decide to start teaching, and what keeps you continuing to want to teach?
Well, I have always had, from a little, I was born with learning disability. I have dyslexia. And so for me to learn something, I have to teach it. I have to get to know. So I'm constantly teaching to increase my knowledge, to increase my understanding. Also, I came from a culture. I came from a segregated culture. I came from a family. My father was a doctor. My mother was a teacher. All of her friends were teachers. That says you have to keep your education. You have to keep studying. And so that's just something that I can't help. There are certain things I can't help not doing. And studying is one. Sometimes my husband comes in and I'm in bed early in the morning and I'm reading anatomy. Or so I'm constantly studying to be able to teach. Because when I was teaching the other traditions, when I came to where I live now in the Napa Valley, they were so happy to have a yoga teacher. I was teaching at the college. I have the certificate for life that I can teach it at the junior college. Although I have a degree that I was a psychology instructor for the upper division in junior college. So I was teaching at the college, then they started sending me to the senior places, the senior camps to teach. I was teaching all over and I was teaching with a yoga voice. And I was doing the yoga thing from the 60s. And I had this Iyengar Yoga book, but I hadn't taken an Iyengar Yoga class then. And so after I took my first Iyengar Yoga class, and they said, lift your kneecaps and stretch your arms and doing this. And I walked into class after one class and start, lift your kneecap and stretch. And I say they lifted their kneecap and walked out the door, because the next class I'm going, where is everybody? So I had to continue studying. I liked Iyengar Yoga. I was immediately attracted to Iyengar Yoga because it's very logical. It's very systematic. And I could ask a question and I got an answer instead of, well, it's from the prana, this type of thing. And so for me, and because of my learning disability, I can learn very complicated things. See Jane run that was very hard for me to read. To read an anatomy book is very easy. To understand very complicated things presented to me in a very systematic, logical way, I can understand. And that's how I teach. I'm very logical, very systematic, very anatomical, because it makes sense to me. And so I was attracted to that. Judith Lassiter made me understand, and I don't think she even knew she made me understand the importance of really understanding how the body moves anatomically, how the body moves in yoga with a anatomical understanding. And so that's why I stay and love Iyengar Yoga.
It's so interesting and amazing to hear your story and how you started in yoga and then were introduced to Iyengar Yoga, and even what you just spoke about and what keeps you practicing and teaching Iyengar Yoga. How do you see, or how do you feel yoga and Iyengar Yoga have influenced or kind of inspired or impacted your life outside of what we do on the mat?
I don't know. I tell people I am not I don't let people call me a yogini. I'm not a yogini. And I got that from what imprinted that on me is Indra Devi says a yogini has to be a master in all of the levels of yoga. I'm an asana teacher. I don't teach philosophy. I don't my professional life, part of my professional life was a humanistic psychologist. I don't do any type of psychology stuff in my classes. Maybe I do, but that's not my consciousness. Yoga for me and my teaching, it's just a part of my life. When I'm depressed, it's not so, oh, I'll go do restoratives. I don't do that. I'm not attracted to restoratives. When I went through menopause, the hardest thing for me was to do the restorative sequence for women in menopause. It was like, oh my God, how long is this? You know, I was sweating even though I'm laying there. I can sweat doing asana. So it's my personality type. My personality type is that yoga for me is just a part of my life, and it's not something that I can say, oh, it has changed me or it affects me or it's whatever. It's just a part of my life. And I do yoga and I do my asana and I do my practice. In fact, I wrote and told Mr. Iyengar, I said, how I teach yoga is from anatomy. I'm anatomy. I'm an asana teacher. I'm not attracted to philosophy. I am not attracted to therapeutics. At the same time, it comes out. So it's not a conscious thing. I think it after you've done it so long, or when you're really receptive to it, it gets in your skin. It's part of you. It's not something that I pull out now because I'm feeling depressed. Definitely, it helps me physically. I've gone through a lot of physical. Um, for 5 years, Mr. Iyengar worked with me for uterine fibroids. I had very big fibroids. And so asana helps me with that. Asana helps me with my body injuries because I was very gung-ho, very tight, and I would injure myself. So learning how to work through my injuries and understanding how my body moves. And now my body is going through aging. And that's another stage in yoga. You know, I've been with this over 40 years with Iyengar Yoga. And so I was not young, I was in my 30s, but a 30-year-old body and a 70-some-year-old body is completely different. And so definitely now I'm using asana for my aging body and how I still can teach. And I have to teach to show one of the last things that Gita and I talked about, and I used to go and talk to her when I went to India, seeing and having my personal time with Gita was the icing on the cake. I looked forward to it. I would just see her sitting at her desk and I would just get so excited. But we talked about, because she and I were basically the same age. And we talked about aging and the problems the body would start feeling in aging, and how the body really gets worn out from demonstrating, and the body can wear out. And so she says, yes, we have to show also how to continue your practice and show how you can age with Iyengar Yoga. And that is one of the promises that I made to her, is that, you know, I came from a world that's completely at the opposite end of the spectrum of yoga when I came to Iyengar Yoga. And that part of me still exists. It's still part of me, just like my Southern accent can come out. It's still part of me. And so I have no problem in being a little flamboyant. But still, when I teach yoga, you might still see that flamboyantness, but you can still say that I can say that my physical condition is definitely a result of Iyengar Yoga.
One of the things you touched upon when you were sharing all that is that you feel like you came from a place that's completely on the opposite end of the spectrum from Iyengar Yoga. And I was wondering if you could talk about how maybe an experience on that end of the spectrum was informative or helpful, or, you know, a life lesson, or whatever, however you want to phrase it, in terms of where you ended up or where you were going.
Yeah. Where I was going, I didn't know. Where I ended up, I was surprised when I got there. It's that type of thing. I came from, I lived in LA, and I worked at Playboy. I worked there for 11 and a half years. And I literally walked out of Playboy into Iyengar Yoga. One of the things I was taking yoga from Indra Devi when I worked at the club. And the bunnies that took class, they were my first students. They were very encouraging for me to continue my study, and continue to teach. Even when I see some of them now, they say, "Are you still teaching?" And I said, "Yes." And so when I went to Playboy, I was 23, and I came from a very sheltered life in Mississippi. And so that was my only job. I'd never had a job until I was 23, because my father took care of me. My father was a doctor, and as long as you're in school, he paid for everything. So I went there, and that was my first time being independent and making money, and we made very good money for that time. And it also gave me the ability to have a support group. They were very supportive there. One of the things that I always like to say about that time in my life, Hefner didn't believe in segregation. So there was no segregation in his clubs, in organization. And also he encouraged the ladies to get a higher education. They paid for 50% of your education. So I was able to get my undergraduate there. And it gave me, I became the training bunny. So I trained for 10 years ladies to be bunnies. So I learned how to teach, although all of my life. I look back, I used to teach when I was in Girl Scout. I used to teach swimming. When I was in modeling, I used to teach modeling. I used to teach people how to ride motorcycles. Anything I did, I taught. And so from working there, I learned how to manage people. I learned how to control myself, to present myself. And that translated when I came to going to teaching at the university. I still have that power, that courage to present myself, to not feel threatened. I don't feel threatened. In fact, when I feel threatened, that just pull me up and make me saying, oh, you don't want any of this. It's like, you don't want to have a competition here. So yeah, and then from there to Iyengar Yoga. And for a lot of people, when they found out that I I was a bunny, a lot of people were offended. I would say use the word offended, but you know, they nose were in the air, and I'm sure there were statements made, and I probably had something to do with that because I was in a different type of acceptance than in at the other end of the spectrum, and they're just, you know, two different things. Where when people find out that I was doing yoga at the Playboy end, they're going, yay. At the yoga end, when they found out I was a bunny, it's like, no, there's different type of mindsets. But, you know, that's life. It didn't stop me from doing my my studies and my teaching, because you know there is a teacher for everybody, whoever wants to take yoga. I might not be their type of teacher, but as far as I'm concerned, like I used to tell my students when I would go to India, and they would say, oh, what are we going to do? I said, you know, it's not about me. If I leave and I come back and you come back, I'm happy to have you. The important thing is for you to do your yoga. That's the important thing. Not for you to sell your soul to me and wait for me to come back. Because everyone can get something from everybody that teach. It might not be, you know, you might not want to stay with that person, but you know, you don't let my going away to do my study to stop you from your study.
I've heard about how Hugh Hefner and Playboy, how active they were, and how he supported the civil rights movement, and
Yes.
like you said, did not believe in segregation. Even though I've heard and read those things, it feels really different hearing you talk about it, and directly in how it made you feel or how it affected you in your life. It's really awesome to hear that.
It
Um,
was very supportive, very supportive. Um, I just saw a picture today of the Mr. Dudley. He was the Black general manager in LA when I met him. And it said that he started out working as a busboy in Chicago and ended up and room directors. I mean, when I went there, there was never this feeling of, oh, well, you're Black, so you're special. It was just you were part of the organization, and there was no separation in that sense. And there was a story that, because when Hefner started going, having his parties and his organizations, it was segregated. It was segregated. And they'd say, oh, you're going to invite this person to my party, your party. And he said, yes, I'm going to invite my friends. If you don't want to come, if you don't come. I was just, I just filmed, yesterday. There was a filming crew here because they're doing a documentary on the memories of the bunnies and what they're doing now. And they asked me to do some asana, and I just forgot what I was saying. Oh, I know what it was. So there was a program called Playboy After Dark, and they asked me if I had been on it, and I said yes. And the night that I was on it, that I remembered, I was the escort date for Marvin Gaye. And so they found on YouTube a clipping of that. The unfortunate part for me, they cut out the part where I was coming in with him. But when he was singing, they said, "Do you see me?" I said, "Oh yeah, there I am, there I am, there I am." And it was quite interesting to see, because he insisted there was no segregation, and he did a lot in for what he could do in his organization, he did.
Do you feel there's been that support in the yoga community, in specifically the Iyengar community, to the support to make everyone feel welcome, appreciated, and accepted?
I can't say that. I can say that a lot of the times I didn't feel welcomed, appreciated, encouraged. I did have, I would say Patricia Walden was very accepting of me. I know Manuso is not in good standing, and so, I'm using that name that some people might be going, but he was very supportive of me. There was Larry Hatlett, Gloria Goldberg, and I can say those were supportive of me, but in a whole, it didn't feel very welcoming. It didn't feel like I wasn't welcome, although there's some. So the organization on a whole didn't feel unwelcoming. There were certain people that I had to deal with that did feel that way, that did act that way. And again, like I said, if I see it, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to let them stop me. My husband used to say, how could you keep going back? How could you keep doing that? And I said, I'm not going to let them. This is what I want. The essence of Iyengar Yoga is beautiful. It's very beautiful. But there's some politics. And so if I let the politics get in my way, my feelings are going to be hurt because I wanted to be part of something and was never invited, it's not going to hurt me enough for me to leave it, because I felt and I still feel that Iyengar Yoga in its purest sense is the best yoga for me. Not saying that's the only thing I can say. It's the best yoga for me. Other forms of yoga, I bow to them. I have no problems with other forms of yoga. But for me, Iyengar Yoga was the best. And I couldn't let anybody's attitude towards me or how they feel about me will stop me. No, you can't do that.
I'm just thinking about, I think, access and inclusion. We have 3 Black Iyengar teachers on this call, but one of the things I think about is, if I count the 3 of us here, that's most of the Black Iyengar teachers I know, right?
Yeah.
That's counting the people on this call and counting myself. So I guess I'm just wondering, we agree that there's this great thing that we want people to have access to, but how do we go about getting it out to more people?
I think it has to come from the person themselves having the interest. It's just so much you can do a show to get people in. There's just so much you can do. I have always, and I can only look at me, I have always, if I want something, I will go and get it, you can, Deidra was saying how many students she had in her class, and I was very impressed about how many people of color she has in her class. I can say out of the whole 40 years I've been teaching at Iyengar Yoga, I've had two regular Black students at the whole time. And I've had a couple of drop-ins, but not regular students. So I don't know. You know, I think advertising is nice. People say, well, the location, if some of these places were in a location, I'm talking about the storefront now, in a location where there is more ethnicity, varied ethnicity groups, you would probably get maybe more students come in. But I've never had it. So I don't know. You know, and I've seen students come into the institute and I smile at them, Black students, and I smile at them, and it's like I'm after their soul. They're looking around and avoiding my gaze. It's like, okay, okay. So I can't answer that question. I still think it's a personal thing. And, you know, I have this class that I used to teach in San Francisco at 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to get up at 4 o'clock to get on the road to be there for 7 o'clock. And I would have people my students at 7 o'clock saying in San Francisco saying, oh, that's too early. Oh, that's too, I said, number one, I have no sympathy and definitely no empathy. So, because I'm up at 4. So I don't care how much you can sing your song, you're not getting any type of empathy or sympathy from me.
How has life been for you since the pandemic? How are there things that you are, you know, I hear a lot of people talking about finding new hobbies or, I don't know, learning a language, something like that. Have you picked up on any things like that?
No. What has happened for me is my relationship with my husband is stronger, I think.
COVID?
Yeah. Because I travel a lot. There are certain times of the year that I wasn't here for a lot of Christmases, Thanksgiving, Christmas, because I was gone. And then I would be gone in the spring. And he was here alone, or he was here when my son was here, he was here. And so being with the COVID, being here, I'm home and we get along very well. We always did, and it also gave me a time to look at the maze. I was like in a rat maze. I did the same thing. I went the same, this is Monday, this is Tuesday. I did that. It gave me a time to really look at my life and see what do I really want to do. And then going on Zoom, I have a student that called me and said, you got to go on Zoom. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be on it because I don't understand it. I don't understand how to do it to this day. But with Zoom and with the COVID, my teaching has gotten, I would say, even more mature. It offered me that opportunity to teach in a different way. And so it has been, for me, in a whole, it's been positive. I missed very much so going to Europe. Although my Sunday class, the majority of the people are from Germany, are from Europe. Since COVID, I've gotten very few new students. COVID. I will pronounce things however it comes out. But since the virus and we had to stay at home, I do miss traveling. I look forward to going back to traveling. But for me, it's been positive. I miss hugging. I was a hugger. So I miss hugging. But other than that, you know, this is what life has presented to us, and it's been a positive thing for me. Picking up something new. Now, I cook a little more than I've ever cooked. I do. I said a little. I said a little. My husband and my son made fun of me when I struggled. I was never a good cook. I hate shopping, and they made fun of me. And I said, okay, you make fun of my cooking, then you won't have to eat it. I stopped cooking for years. I stopped cooking so much so that my son ate pizza so much that he went to the pizza parlor and he said something about my mother, and they said, you have a mother? So now they're happy when I cook. So that's how I am.
After that pizza anecdote, I don't think there's anything else I can ask you that'll be a better way to end it. I think that was amazing. Thank you. Is there anything that you feel like you wish we had asked that we did not ask you?
No, but I want to thank you for thinking of me to ask, and I do take it as an honor, and I do support you. And like I said, you are the future. You know, I'm one of the seniors that's going in the other direction, but you're the ones that will carry it on into the years to come. And I would encourage you to let your heart. I'll tell you a story, and then I'll let you go. So I was in Pune, and I was in the practice hall, and I was talking to someone, and probably talking to him about the knees. I'm sure it was about the knees. And Mr. Iyengar passed, and I was up by the stage, and he passed, and he had very long fingers, and he stopped it, and he pointed at me, and he said in my face, he says, teach what you know. And it's like, and I'm going, oh my God. And that stayed with me for a long time. And I was, yeah, it's never left. I was in Germany, and I had this dream, and he came very clear to me. And he said again, but in a different way, with his finger still there, he says, teach what you know. And I wrote Gita, and I told her the dream. I told her the situation, and I told her the dream. And she wrote back and said, thank you for reminding me that Guruji says that. She said, it has two meanings. She says, teach, he's giving you a warning to teach what you know. On the other side, she says, teach what you know and never hide it in your heart. And so that's what I'd like to pass on to you, is that you are the forefront. You know, you said 5 students. You are that. You want to teach what you know. At the same time, what you know, don't hold it in your heart. Don't keep it away. Okay?
Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice meeting you, Kevin. Nice seeing you again, Deidra. And I will be part of the audience looking, supporting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So that was our interview with Jaki Nett, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And as I said before we played it, that there's actually a longer version. That was a 38-minute version. There's a 50-minute version that I will work with the Institute to get posted so that people can check that out. We have about 15 minutes and we wanted to leave some time here at the end just to kind of see what's come up for people, to see if people had any questions or comments about anything that she brought up or just like representation in general. I think when Deidra and I were thinking about this event, Deidra, feel free to jump in at any time. I think we were just trying to think about just, like representation, right? I think it just, like, before we played the clip, I was saying, like, it's just nice to hear from somebody who's Black, who's been doing it for a long time. Yeah, so there's a question in the chat, Deidra, about like, somebody asking about how you experience being a Black teacher. I don't know how you necessarily want to answer that, but maybe you could just talk about like how you came to Iyengar Yoga. Right.
Oh, I thought I was muted, sorry.
I can hear you.
That was a dramatic pause. I actually came to Iyengar. I was studying Vinyasa Yoga. I was in a Vinyasa teacher training, and we were required to take one Iyengar class and one Ashtanga class. And so it was, to pause that a moment, it was so interesting talking to Jaki and hearing her story, because I felt that there were a lot of similarities. The way that she talked about starting in another style and then finding out about Iyengar Yoga and then some other things. But I learned so much in that first Iyengar class that I just kept going back. And this class was at a Vinyasa studio. It took me a while to kind of build up the courage to eventually take classes at the Iyengar Institute. And when I did, I was really nervous to walk in, to take class, just because there was a lot that I didn't know, that I knew that I didn't know about Iyengar Yoga or about props and things like that. And it is, I think that I spend most of the time, I'm in a predominantly white space. And all of the spaces I've been going to, I kind of know what to expect from those spaces. So I think part of my fear in eventually going to the Iyengar Institute was, what's it going to be like in here? And it's so interesting. It was so interesting for me to hear Jaki talk about how she dealt with that. I think the way that I kind of deal with any fears I have or any feelings of being different or being the only person of color, I deal with it a little different, but it's similar to a lot of the things that Jaki said. I think I kind of have the mindset of similar. If I want it, I'm going to get it, and that makes me think then about how many people of color maybe don't think like that. Maybe if there was more space for them, or if they felt welcome or open, then, if they're like, well, if you don't want me, I don't got to be there. If they're that kind of person, maybe they are not going to take that step and continue on taking classes or eventually going through a teacher training. So that was interesting, just to kind of understand myself when just hearing Jaki speak, how the way that she handled some of the things were similar to how I experienced and have handled things, being one of the few Black teachers and also one of the few Black students.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe that's why both you and I are on this Zoom right now, is that I also feel like I'm the person of like, well, like if this is what I want, like I'm gonna go and do the thing. So I think in my non-yoga life, like I spent a lot of time in spaces that were like predominantly white. So I don't think like I actively thought or like was challenged by the idea of walking into a space that was predominantly not Black. I think it was more about like when I started like doing things and I didn't really see like other, but I didn't think about like, is this like, am I like trying to do something bigger? Like, this is just something I think is important. It's something I'm interested in. So I just want to do it. And then it's weird because like you just go about your life, you go about your studies and you're just doing it. There's not necessarily an idea of like, is this seen as like something bigger than yourself, or does this land differently for someone else? Because you'll know how it lands for other people. It's either you. I see that Ned raised his hand. I will call in a second. And I remember I was at the national convention in Dallas the other year, and somebody had found out, this young man had found out I was a teacher, and he's a Black man from the DC area, and he just found me at some point during the convention, and he introduced himself. He's like, I just wanted to like shake your hand and meet you. He's like, because I've been studying Iyengar yoga, but like I've never met a Black teacher. He's like, I just wanted to meet a Black teacher because I've never met a Black teacher. And it was just really moving because like I'm not going out to like try and inspire somebody, but all I do is show up. And he was like, this is great. So yeah. I saw that Ned raised his hand, so I'm gonna ask him to unmute and then.
Thanks, Kevin. And I'm only speaking up because I heard you sort of open the floor a little bit, but I'm really interested to hear the stories here. And you and Deidra are modeling being yoga students. And I think that came through so clearly in Jaki's talk. And I feel like our conversation nationally about diversity, equity, and inclusion has these two sides. One is the inward journey that we're very much sharing, the focus is very much Iyengar yoga and learning. And I think we're all drawn to that. That's why we're here. And then there's the outward journey. We're in this national we're in a moment in history, and we have a shared history, and it's conflicted. And we are trying to bring our understanding of our history into our study and into our community. And I wonder, sometimes I feel like we can be clumsy if we're not clear in our own minds that we're sort of dealing with both, that sort of our shared existence, our shared study of yoga is at a center, and then our understanding of where we are in relation to one another in the external world can be difficult to navigate. I'm sharing as a reflection that I think we kind of need to be clear that both are happening. And it really struck me when Jaki said she's had 2 or 3 serious returning Black students like herself, that, she's positioned in a way within an Iyengar community that may or may not feel inclusive in ways you described well. And this is tricky terrain of building more diversity, because we're trying to build more interest and love for this subject at the core. And doing that is just not easy overall. And I just really appreciate your effort to shine light from another lens here in this work you're doing today. And, in the bigger picture. So I apologize for rambling, but I just felt compelled to share a little bit.
Thank you. I think that it was interesting also for me to hear that when Jaki said that she had 2 or 3 regular Black students, and then the conversation, and I feel like I've been asked a lot, how do we get more people of color to, take Iyengar classes or go through teacher training? And I think that more and more when I talk about that or have those conversations, I kind of feel like, just personally, I've always had to go to someone else to get something. I've always had to go to a predominantly white space. When I went to school, when I went to college, I guess I didn't have to go to a predominantly white school. I could have went to a HBCU. But I did go to a predominantly white school. I think that, even when I go to the grocery store, when I go to the coffee shop, and wherever I go, I am one of the only people of color there. And I think that a lot of people of color are always having to step out and go out and to get that. And so I felt like, well, why don't they come to us? There's, I'm sure, now we're not really doing things in person. But there are, rec centers, there are churches, there are community centers, there are YMCAs that are, that the people that go are predominantly people of color. And there are ways that we can reach out to those organizations to offer classes to them, to go to them. And maybe they end up coming to institutes or Iyengar classes, maybe they don't. Maybe they just take the classes when you go there to them. And so that's been kind of my understanding of things, and the way that I have also wanted to do outreach. And it is important, I think, for everyone, but especially for me, because I've had that similar experience that Kevin has. A woman took my POC class a couple of weeks ago, and she's actually in a Vinyasa teacher training. And they encouraged her, just like they encouraged me when I did my training, to take an Iyengar class. And she didn't know that I was going to be that I was going to be the teacher. And she kind of realized during class, I've never, as long as she's been practicing yoga, she's never practiced with a teacher that was a person of color. And I think that in yoga, it's important for representation in that way. And then even outside, and this is why I think that, how we study, how we learn about Black history is so important. Another student of mine is a musician, and she performs in big bands. And I put up a post about ragtime and Scott Joplin, and she didn't know that Scott Joplin wasn't white. And then when I thought about it, I guess I didn't know that either. It's almost like I never learned about so many people in my history, in Black history, in American history. We didn't learn those things in school. And so we're learning those things now. And then again, in that way, representation is important as well.
Thanks, Deidra. I want to keep going. I want to talk more about things, but according to my clock, it's 12:59. So Deidra was talking about learning more about Black history. And Deidra, if you can just put a couple links in the chat, she'll just send out a few links in the chat if you want to, learn more about Black history on your own. Ned was talking about things being clumsy. I think clumsy work is better than no work at all. So with that, I think, I'm glad that there's been a event like this. I think Deidra and I would be honored to do more events like this. I don't know what that looks like at the moment, But if you'd like that, let the Institute know and we'll get to work on it. Thank you. Anything else, Deidra?
I can't think of anything. I put a few links in the chat, just different ways to learn about Black history. One is the Schomburg Center at the New York Public Library. They have a digital collection where we can go to learn all sorts of things. And then Black Owned Brooklyn is also an organization that also talks about Black history, specifically in New York, but then also Black-owned businesses that we can support here as well.
And I just want to thank Deidra and Kevin so much. This is the voice of James Murphy. But I just want to say, Deidra and Kevin, thank you so much for putting this together. It was a beautiful, wonderful, educational afternoon, and getting Jaki to be with us. And so I just want to thank you guys so much for doing this and continue to do this. And every day we have a post of one of Deidra's exhibit right before the class. So you don't want to miss that every day. Come to class early so you can see and read those posts because they're wonderful. So I just thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for coming too.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. And again, keep practicing and we'll see you soon.